Hello there, my friends. It is I, Arcturus Valen Fortis, and once again I am still from the Celestius Luminus Tribe in the realm of light. As you know by now, I am a warrior, a teacher, and a pilot. I am here to teach you the warrior's mindset. And today, my friends, we are going to be going over how this can help you in your business and in your life. I always thought it was something of a fashion statement for businessmen and women to carry copies of The Art of War by Sun Tzu. I understood their claim that it was relevant to business and strategy, and that many of the ideas are still relevant. But it all seemed a bit fanciful to me, more like vanity and posing. How could a 1,000-year-old treaty genuinely be relevant to today's world of computers and mobile phones? And then I read it. Once I read it, I understood how it was relevant to a warrior's mindset. And I began to practice the warrior's mindset as it taught in the book, and quickly realized that it is actually highly relevant to being resilient and to being capable and adaptable. Sure, it won't teach you how to use Microsoft Word, but in terms of marketing, leadership, and management, especially of your resources and your personnel, it is still very, very useful. These ideas and suggestions are timeless and can be applied in almost limitless situations. Look at it this way. If the advice is good enough to help you win wars with swords and arrows, then surely it can help you get Bill from accounting to stop complaining. With that in mind, I present some of the best quotes and lessons from the book that you can take with you into the office and use to inspire more loyalty and productivity in your daily affairs. And just for good measure, I've thrown in some Machiavelli, who wrote The Prince as an instruction manual for an Italian prince that would help him to become an effective ruler someday. Excellent text as well. These are both texts aimed at historical warriors and kings, and yet they are coveted by business professionals, relationship gurus, and more. This is a perfect example of why the warrior mindset is still relevant in today's day and age. And you will see that the sentiments therein echo much of what we have already discussed here in these lessons. So let us start here today. Lessons from the art of war. There is no instance of a nation benefiting from prolonged warfare. In other words, if you are at odds with a competitor or a colleague, then a prolonged struggle will only serve to damage both of you. This is called a Pyrrhic victory, a phrase that comes from another famous historical battle. By the end, even if you win, you will have damaged your reputation and wasted your resources so that you're left with nothing more than a Pyrrhic victory. Instead, then, see if you cannot turn an opponent into an ally and find a way that you both can benefit instead. Remember, the warrior chooses their battles wisely. The warrior mindset is not about being aggressive and reactionary. It's about being poised, forgiving, and powerful enough to not to need to lift a finger. This then explains another of Sun Tzu's quotes. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. This is highly relevant to modern warriors, truer now than ever before. Opportunities multiply as they are seized. If you wanted an example of how the art of war can directly apply to business, then this quote is it. Opportunities multiply as they are seized. How much more perfectly could you want this to describe the process of making investments or gathering clients? The business world is Very, very strict. And a lot of people say that you have to spend money to accumulate things. No, you need to seize the opportunities as they present themselves. Do you remember how Arnold Schwarzenegger chose bodybuilding as a path and a springboard to greater success? I thought so. You can similarly choose wisely in order to yield incredible results from simple starting points as well. Now, one of my favorite quotes in this book is, "Know thy enemy and know thyself." In 100 battles, you will never be in peril. That's an obvious one that rams home the importance of both researching the market and looking at your own feedback in order to ensure that you are best prepared to take on the competition. In case you thought Sun Tzu only glosses over obvious points, though he does go on to expand, when you are ignorant of the enemy, but know yourself, your chances of winning or losing are equal. If ignorant of both, however, your enemy and yourself, you are certain in every battle to be in peril and possibly lose. Now, outside of the office, we have already discussed how knowing yourself will allow you to form your own rules, your own goals, and your objectives. The general who advances without coveting fame and retreats without fearing the general of disgrace is the general whose only thought is to protect his country and do good service for his sovereign. This is the true jewel of the kingdom. This is the kind of employee that you want. Keep an eye on those who bring about amazing results. Because when they bring too much ego into the workplace, your workplace will suffer. But when they bring themselves, their authentic selves, who helps people, who is kind, who actively listens, who follows the rules, and doesn't covet fame, and doesn't fear disgrace. This is the type of person that you need in the workplace. This does perfectly echo Seneca's views on living with less earlier on as well. Remember, in this case, you are not serving your country or sovereign, but the higher purpose and values that you choose for yourself. Victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. My friends, planning is everything. Before you bring your product or your service to market, your success or failures is a foregone conclusion. So make sure that you've tested the waters. Make sure that you've done your research thoroughly. Because planning is everything. While you cannot avoid every single battle, every single obstacle, you can be prepared for what is coming at you time and time again. And again, this speaks to the calm and the calculated nature of the warrior. The warrior does not rush in from headlong, despite their control over their fear. When you have control over your fear, you know that it is nothing more than false evidence appearing real. So let us take some lessons from the prince now, shall we? Whosoever desires constant success must change his conduct with the times. This is particularly important to note if you run a large organization or are in danger of resting on your laurels. Be thinking one step ahead at all times. If you can think more, then do more. If you want to avoid the same fate as Kodak. Now, here's the thing. This also echoes the sentiments we discussed earlier, too, about being willing to change your principles and adapt where necessary. This is why I have included this into the warrior's mindset, because a warrior's mindset is adaptable. They are willing to change at a moment's notice, if need be. And this comes from within, not from without. Men ought to be well treated or crushed, because they can avenge themselves of lighter injuries, or more serious ones if they cannot. You see, crushing your opponents and employees may not be encouraged in ethical business practices nowadays. Interestingly enough, Sun Tzu is actually more of a pacifist than Machiavelli. But the point is still valid. Do not make enemies, then give them your time to lick their wounds. As far as possible, the warrior should avoid combat and confrontation at all costs. Unfortunately, at times, this is not possible. Then the warrior should think before combat and confrontation is engaged in. They should seek to please everyone, including themselves, and find the most mutually beneficial outcome. A win-win scenario, if you will. However, if you decide to engage in competition or combat first, then you must act with finality and wisdom. You see, a wise man does at once what the fool does finally. He doesn't let things tally. Time is money, and indecision is a recipe for failure, especially with a warrior's mindset. It gives you time to doubt yourself. It gives you time to doubt the situation. And it gives you time to doubt yourself getting out of that situation. Act, don't think sometimes. Entrepreneurs are simply those who understand that there is little difference between obstacle and opportunity, and they are able to turn both to their advantage. This is far more literal than you might think. You see, opening a tin of beans is easy. Is it a challenge, however, or an opportunity? To a starving man, without a way to open the can, it is both. This is similar to the ideas we discussed earlier about seeing challenge as a chance for growth. And how crazy is it to think that Machiavelli might have had such relevant and useful advice for modern entrepreneurs? Read The Prince. It will come in handy. Yet more proof than the warrior's mindset is timeless, and just as important today as ever before. Anything can be approached as a warrior, if you have the warrior's mindset. Once again, I highly recommend reading these books as part of your evolution and your journey to becoming the best version of yourself. They belong on every warrior's reading list. My friends, sometimes when we take a hard road, we must learn a hard lesson. And we're reaching the end of our journey together now, but yours is only just beginning. It's time to start putting yourself out there, putting yourself first with the warrior's mindset, and accomplishing what you need to accomplish. It's time to test yourself, to grow, to take on challenges, and decide what's really important to you. It's time to stop fretting the small stuff, to cease the creature comforts, and to embrace a more challenging and demanding life in all aspects, because that's where the value comes from, and that's what will make you great. My friends, a word of caution, however, before you go. This is not easy, keeping a warrior's mindset, developing a warrior's mindset, because the tough gets to going, and the going is going to get tough. You are going to find that sometimes doing the right thing and ignoring your emotional responses means saying things people don't like. Sticking to your principles will mean upsetting the apple cart. Forgetting how you look will lead you to sometimes being shunned. Forgetting physical possessions will leave you sometimes feeling destitute. But if you know yourself, if you truly know yourself, my friends, if you know your goals, what it is that you want to accomplish, what drives you, what motivates you, if you know what you want to do, and you know the principles that you want to live by, then you know the right things to do, and you should have the strength to do them. And that means living with the consequences, my friend. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. That means everything you do will have a consequence. There is a price to be paid for everything. And keeping a warrior's mindset keeps you adaptable and keeps you strong. That is the last lesson that I wanted to impart with you, my friends. Be willing to face the music. Face the consequences for your actions, your thoughts, your speech. Be willing to put yourself out there. Take risks, and then face the flack that comes your way. No matter what happens, there will always be haters. There will always be telling you that you cannot do this. Do not listen to them. Stand strong in your faith. Stand strong in who you are. That is the warrior's way. Remember, this all flows on from the lessons on Stoicism, minimalism, and the fear that we have already considered. But it is highly important. If nothing else, if you go from this lessons, taking fear is nothing more than false evidence appearing real, and you can do anything, then you have learned many things. As soon as you learn things, you learn that sometimes you'll get things wrong, and that's okay. It's part of the learning process. You accept to learn and deal with the outcome at that point. You'll find that becoming a more decisive and more efficient individual is good for you. People who are afraid to make the wrong choice make the wrong decision. And they don't want to get upset, but they get upset by never being able to make decisions. They'll always be on the fence, and they will always lack conviction. That's not you. You're a warrior, and that means you need to follow your own path, and you will face the consequences as a mature adult. You will ask for forgiveness and not permission. And if you don't get it, as long as you have done what's right by you, then you will forge ahead anyway. You, my friend, are the warrior. Never forget that.